So what's good, y'all? We back with another video. Basically just gonna give my thoughts and opinions on this draft because man, it was a very crazy night. Very crazy night, very hectic, very stressful night too for me. Being on Twitter, I was going crazy and then like I kind of calmed down. I'm kind of calm right now, I'd say. But you know what? Let's just talk about the draft. Why not? Because a lot of interesting things happened. The Orlando Magic selected Paolo Banchero at number 1. And to be honest, I have no problem with the pick. He is definitely a number 1 pick kind of guy. Any one of those 3 guys could have went number 1. And he's the most NBA ready. I think he's going to have a really good NBA career. I think he'll be an all-star kind of guy. And I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. If you want to go for a guy that's going to impact their franchise right now, Paolo Banchero was the guy. So I'm not mad with Orlando taking that pick if I was a Magic fan. And I like the young Corday guy. I really do. So I'm going to be really interested to see the Magic's team, the way they develop over the next couple years, because I like a lot of those players on the roster. They did some good drafting last year. They had good players like Wendell Carter Jr. and Cole Anthony and Markelle Fultz, who I think will improve next season also. So it's going to be a pretty good leap for this Magic team next year. Don't think they'll be a playoff team. I think it'll be a couple more years, maybe even 3 years, but Magic are definitely on the right direction. As for the second and third pick, Chet Holmgren and Jabari Smith, pretty much a no-brainer. Both guys, really good players, definitely fit both organizations. If you saw Jabari Smith, he was tight. He was tight that he didn't get selected first or second. So he's definitely going to have the Thunder and the Magic as targets when he plays against them, because he was really mad that he didn't get selected in those spots. But hey, I don't blame him. He probably believes he's the best player in the class, as you should. So you know what? I want to see how he does against those teams. I'm going to really be interested to see how he does against those two teams. See if he ends up being one of those Thunder killer or Magic killer kind of guys. One of those guys that goes into those games and just goes off on that team. But as for like a basketball standpoint, really like both picks. I think Chet Holmgren fits with OKC really well. I discussed it in a video that I had made like literally 2-3 weeks ago. And then as for Jabari Smith, I didn't think he'd go at number 3. But now that he's there, I think he fits the team. I think they need a guy like that. They needed a 4. I think they needed a 4. I didn't think Chet Holmgren would have fit that well because Sengun is a guy that I look at more as like a 5 rather than a 4. So now that they got that power forward, pretty good selection. You can't go wrong with Jabari Smith or Banchero. So obviously they made the right choice. As for other notable picks in the draft, obviously Jaden Ivey went number 5. And then like when Jaden Ivey went 5th, this is when the whole draft went like weird for a good, I'd say hour. It went really weird. Especially if you were a fan of the Pistons, the Knicks, and I guess if you want to say OKC for a little second. Because Jaden Ivey got selected. Then the Knicks were still pursuing getting Jaden Ivey even after he got drafted. So they were trying to go after him crazy. And then they go, and there's this report coming out that if the Knicks select Jalen Duren, then they have a shot to try to get Ivey. And then next thing you know, the Knicks go, they draft some dude that played in Australia. I don't know his name, I'm sorry. But they draft some dude in Australia. Then they trade with OKC for future first. That's fine. It's whatever, I guess. 2023 first round picks, they're protected. But most likely the Knicks are going to do what they always do. They're going to take the draft picks and trade it away like always. So I understand, whatever, right? Then they go and they make a trade with Detroit. And the Hornets are involved. Because the Hornets draft Jalen Duren and then they trade him to the Knicks. And then the Knicks trade him to Detroit. And then everybody on Twitter is going crazy. I mean, I think everybody's thinking, not just me, we're getting Jaden Ivey. It's beautiful. We got a point guard or shooting guard, whatever, right? We come to find out the Knicks just made a move to clear cap space to try to go after Jalen Brunson. Now, you already know how I feel in that situation. I'm not going to talk about it on this video because it has nothing to do with it, but the Knicks are really bending over backwards for Jalen Brunson. Alright, man, whatever. But as for other things that happened in the draft, Dyson Daniels, I really like that selection for New Orleans. I think he's a really good player. He can impact the game without scoring the ball, and the Pelicans can use that because they already got enough scoring. They got CJ McCollum, Zion Williamson is coming back. He's going to be one of the best players in the league next year. Mark it down if he stays healthy. And then Brandon Ingram, we all know what he can do. So the Pelicans definitely made a good choice. I was a little confused with Shaedon Sharpe going to Portland because you got Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons on the roster. But you know what? He can learn from those guys. And, let's just say one day Damian Lillard decides, you know what? I can't win in Portland. But thank you for all the time and thank you for the fan support and everything. He just leaves. He asks for a trade. They could get assets for Dame. And then Sharpe, with the learning that he's probably going to get from those guys, the development, he can take over. He can play the 1 or the 2. So you know what? I'm not going to criticize him for it because maybe he can take over Dame's spot and they can have Dame or they can have Sharpe and Simons be the future backcourt for the Portland Trailblazers. So I'm not mad at the selection at all. Mathurin went to Indiana. It was weird because for some reason I never pictured him in a Pacers jersey, even though a lot of people figured he'd be selected around that range. But it's not a bad fit. Not a bad fit at all. You got Halliburton. I really like Halliburton. And then you got Chris Duarte, who was last year's draft pick, who is one of those older draft picks, but he's pretty good. Pretty good scorer. And they got a nice little team. I think they need a few more guys. They're not a playoff team at all yet, but they got cap space. Thing is, I don't know what they're going to use that cap space on because Indiana is usually a team that never gets like big name free agents. So I'll see how their offseason goes, but I do like the pick of Mathurin because you know how I feel about him. He can score in a lot of different ways, all 3 levels. A guy that can be a solid defender as well, so pretty good selection at that spot. As for picks that I did like that weren't in the top 10, I really like the Jalen Williams to OKC pick at number 12. I talked about him in a recent video. I said he is a guy to watch for. He's a sleeper pick, and he is going to play really well on this Thunder team. They're going to find the minutes for him. The only question is you got like a kind of a logjam at guard because you got SGA, you got Josh Giddey that can play guard, you got Trey Mann, who played pretty solid for them when he did play for the team and not in the G League. And then you got Jalen Williams, a guy that I consider to be really like a point forward / guard kind of guy. But as for the talent, no denying he has really good talent. He can score, he can pass. He's a big point guard or a big guard, whatever you want to call him. So I like the selection there. And then obviously Jalen Duren to Detroit was pretty crazy. I really like that because I don't know if they go after Ayton crazy now because of the fact that they got Duren, but if he is the starting center next year for that team in Detroit and you got him, you got Cade, you got Jaden Ivey, really nice young core. Detroit is a big winner right now. Troy Weaver did a hell of a job in this draft. He made up for that Jeremy Grant trade because I don't know what was that, but he made up for it big time by making the selections and the trades that he did. So shout out to Detroit. I said literally back in like June 2021, before they drafted Cade, I said that the Pistons were going to be a really good team soon, just not yet. And look at the pace that their rebuild is on. They're going to be a really good team soon, just in about, I'd say give it like 3 years. They're going to be one of those teams that are like in the top 6, top 5 in the Eastern Conference. But next season, watch out for like a play-in, low seed playoff kind of appearance from the Pistons. I'm telling you, don't sleep on the Pistons. They look really good next season, especially with the young core they got. As for other picks, AJ Griffin went to the Atlanta Hawks. To be honest, I like the fit. I mean, he can shoot. Obviously, we know he can do. And he'll kind of just be a spot-up guy in Atlanta. Trae Young's running the show. AJ can kind of just do what he has to do, play his role, similar to what he did in Duke. Obviously, he'll have more room to do stuff because the core is bigger and he'll have more freedom. It's not like one of those systems where he was playing in Duke where it was more like old school basketball, because that's how the college game kind of is. In the NBA, it'll benefit him because all we know now is, everybody shoots threes. So it'll benefit towards him, especially with a guy like Trae Young, who's such a great playmaker. And as for everybody else in the draft, there were a couple guys I liked that went late. But besides that, it wasn't really nothing crazy. I wasn't really like, jaw-dropping at any of these picks after AJ Griffin. I am interested in Houston's rebuild because I do like the fact that they did draft, they got Jabari Smith, obviously, and then they also got other first-round picks, or another first-round pick because they did trade one of those. So they got 2 first-round picks in this year's draft. They had 3 last year. And I really like the selections they've made. So Houston's definitely on the right track also. Don't think they'll be a playoff team next year either. I think you give it about 2 to 3 more seasons before I can make that assumption that they're ready to take that leap. But Houston Rockets, Orlando Magic, Detroit Pistons, and I want to wait and see what the Pacers. But those 3 teams that I mentioned before Indiana, those are teams to watch for next season that are going to make improvements. Specifically Detroit. I'm telling you again, watch out for Detroit. I am on the Detroit bandwagon next season. I'm telling you. I'm a Knicks fan, but I'm telling you right now, the Detroit Pistons are going to be a top 10 team in the East, because that's what you need to be in the playing game. They're going to be a top 10 team in the Eastern Conference. But as for besides that, the draft was pretty interesting. Had some good storylines, had some feel-good moments, had some hectic moments. But besides that, pretty good draft. It was a pretty fun draft to watch. Pretty fun draft to go through with fans of your teams. Anyways, that's going to do it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Link will be down in the description below. This has been The Checkup, where we talk hoops and hoops only. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.